BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, this is Game On and I'm Adam Rosser. So, moving on to the new project, which I think is being something you're running in association with Ukie and including other things like the Get Smart About Play campaign. What are you there to do? What's this new thing doing?
So, I have for a long time been writing a book for families called Taming Gaming. And as I was finishing this, I realised it had lots of game recommendations in it, but really, obviously, it's a book. It's a physical, hardback, beautiful colour book, but you can't search it. So I set about making a small database, and that was about 60 books. And in the making of it, I kept adding to it, and we ended up with what's now about 300 games. And with lots of kids being at home and, you know, parents wanting a way to find a wider range of games, Ukie were really great and stepped up and added a bit of funding so that we could get this out ahead of the book and sort of get it into families' hands. And it's basically a way for mums, dads, carers, guardians to find games in unusual ways. So they're grouped together in lists. And at the moment, we've got games that are really good for education, for instance, that to keep you fit, but also games that maybe offer hope as a list for that, or games that are a great way to sort of calm and escape the chaos of the world. So it's kind of like a game discovery engine. And I've been really enjoying hearing from families who found unusual games just by searching the database.
Yeah, we got Be a Good Neighbour is one I'm looking at now.
Yeah.
And Find Calm from the Storm. Educational games that are also good games because, of course, sneaking a bit of education into a game is not an easy process. And Get Fit, playing great games. I mean, this is all useful stuff. Stuff like Ring Fit, I suppose, falls squarely into that bailiwick, yes, doesn't it? Although you need a sort of peripheral for Ring Fit, don't you?
Yeah, and so something that the database has kind of in its ethos is it's not all about the latest, greatest games. It's sort of saying you've probably got technology in your home that can play games already. That might be a smartphone, that might be a smart TV, might be a Wii, as well as the new stuff. And there are actually some amazing games that you could get to utilise what you've already got. So in that kind of keep fit area, obviously Just Dance is still coming out on the Wii. That was released on the Wii this year. And there's loads of older games that you can get. You know, Animal Crossing is out on the Switch, but it's pretty expensive for families, particularly if you've got, let's say, siblings who want to play together. You really need 2 copies of the game. So I've been suggesting families, you know, if you can't afford that, then go for it on the Wii. So that's the kind of the approach, is to bring these games together, get them in front of families so they can play them, but don't just kind of highlight the ones that are a bit expensive.
It's a unique time. In some ways a dispiriting time, but it's a unique time for games and for the social aspect of games, isn't it? Are sort of families aware enough of, do you think, about that, or are they people still saying to you, but should I be playing games with my children? Do you still hear that from people?
Yeah, I think there's that kind of background worry still for parents, is that what are these games doing to our kids, and we don't quite know, and it feels like we should be limiting them and sort of, you know, switching them off at certain times, or, you know, doing things like that. But I think what we're seeing is kind of a turning of the tide, really, as kids are using games to kind of get through these days, to connect with friends, to do a bit of education, but also as a space to escape into, like we've been saying, to find a bit of calm, or to do something where they have got some control in a very uncontrolled world at the moment. And I think as parents are realising that, you know, they're seeing that if they root that as part of family life, it can be a really positive thing. And that's always been true, but we're just kind of discovering that now. That doesn't mean that, you know, kids should play all day, every day, and you do need to guide them. But doing that as a parent involved, understanding those benefits, is a much easier conversation than just saying, just play Fortnite for an hour, then turn it off. It's very different.
So my daughter came to me today and said, right, we're going out for a walk. And so we went out for a walk. And now she's gone upstairs and she's tackling a bit of coursework that she's been set, which she was finding a bit difficult, which we talked about while we were on the walk. And now I suppose a bit later on she'll be playing some more Sims 4. And hybridising the day, mixing it up like that, and not only is it we've got time where we're doing stuff together, but I'm quite lucky. I kind of understand how games work. So when she says I'm off to do some Sims, I don't find myself thinking, should you be doing that and not doing something else? It's like, well, yeah, have you done your work? Yeah, well, that's fine. Go and do the Sims. Start up a new city skyline project. Have at it. Because I think that mix is really quite beneficial for her, because it puts her in charge of her day, which I think is quite useful. But it's also being in such close proximity for such an extended period with my daughter and possibly you with your children. You're finding that they do stuff differently anyway. Is that sort of what you're seeing?
Yeah. And I think there's 2 things I'm hearing there. Firstly, that you're being quite ambitious about what she might do in her games and encouraging her to maybe take on more. And there's that kind of almost back to front of like, don't just play it like this. Why don't you try and achieve something more in your game? And equally, it kind of, it gives you that sort of structure so that you've done some homework, and then the games are almost like the kind of replacement for a break or a playtime where you go to them. And so I think having a variety of things to do, whether that's some on screens and some not, but also when you're on screens, having a variety of activity is going to be helpful. And, anything that can help at this time, I think is something that we need to embrace.
People have also been turning to board games and to physical stuff like that, and that seems to be working for some people as well. I mean, there are the games that are out there that I'm aware of, and for people like Dicebreaker and Shut Up and Sit Down, they're all doing a similar job to you, but in a different kind of space, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think often it's easy to feel like, video games are the thing that's come of age and they're the bright new shining star, but actually many board games are much more kind of mature and nuanced in their play than video games, and I'll often direct families to board games as well. And I think that's helpful to know if you've got a child who loves video games and you want to get them off the screen. Go and look up some of the kind of niche sort of gaming board games of some of those sites that you mentioned, and there's a sort of a synergy there, and they'll take to those quite easily. And again, it roots that as a family activity.
Yeah, there's a load of stuff in the cupboard which I've not had a chance to tackle, but I think we're going to together. By hook or by crook, we're going to play Azure, even if she has to explain it to me, which is entirely possible, because that one doesn't seem to be the most transparent piece of gameplay. I might be doing it a disservice. I've not really wrestled with it. I think you were in New York, weren't you, for the games, for the toy and game show? It must be a bit. How does it feel now? It's a bit of an odd one because the industry is kind of on a hiatus, and yet we're still getting those new sets from Lego, like that new Buccaneer ship that's coming out, the one that can be made into 2 islands, which I'm toying with the idea of buying. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Who knows? Where the industry it's a weird moment, isn't it, for the physical and the non-physical? The sort of non-physical can keep happening, and we're here to buy it and to look at it and to talk about it. And then there's the physical, which all appears to be on a kind of a hiatus. It's an odd one, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was a slightly strange atmosphere at Toy Fair. It was before things got locked down, but there was a lot of hand washing going on. But I saw a lot of really good board games there, and lots of kind of innovation in the toy space and that sort of crossover between toys and video games. Bandai Namco have got this Tori app game that you have a physical thing that you move over a tablet and it kind of detects where it's moving. So that sort of carries on. And then after Toy Fair, there was the announcement of, I'm not sure I'll get the name right, but there's a Lego Mario crossover. So you have a Mario toy and you build but in Lego form, you build the levels, and the toy is intelligent, the little Mario character, so it knows where it is. It's got a screen on it. And so as you go around your little Mario level that you can build out of Lego, you can score points and you can unlock things. So that's kind of an interesting crossover. But I thought that was interesting that they saved that and didn't announce it at Toy Fair. It was like this kind of Nintendo Direct thing. So there's a lot of change, I think, in both the toy industry and the game industry. And I think with this, like you're saying, with this hiatus, we're going to come out of it, and there's going to be a real shake-up, isn't there, in lots of areas. And I think some of these industries will have been reshaped by how we think about them.
Yeah, very definitely. Last night at the BAFTA Awards, Andy, Disco Elysium took 3 of its 7 nominations. I mean, this game is possibly outside of the wheel of your children's gaming, but you play games yourselves. I mean, were you attracted to it? Are you toying with the idea now that it's taken, I think, was it narrative, music, and debut? Are you tempted to get hands on?
Yeah, it's that narrative award criteria that caught my attention. It was on my radar already, and I could have heard of it because there's quite a lot of sort of, I guess, a hype in the community about it. And so I checked out some videos. But it's quite, I think it's one of those games that it's kind of hard to understand without actually playing it. It's like an adventure game that's sort of a pastiche of various different genres, and you play this kind of dark detective sort of character. So I know that it's also a game that's probably pretty long and is rated quite old. So it's probably not one I'd play with the younger kids in the family. And also I need to find the time to play it. So it would be on the list, but I would struggle to get it to the top of my list, I think. I
understand. It's one of the very few games, of course, which has woken me up as a character with a hangover. I think the last time I had that happening to me was during Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Or maybe Monkey Island.
Oh, well spotted. So Disco Elysium, as I said to Andy, and thank you very much, Andy, for coming on as ever. How do people find the website? Remind us.
The database is at taminggaming.com. And that's sort of growing daily, so there'll be more and more games going up there every day.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming on as ever, Andy.